Okay.
Okay, including Whoosh. What the fuck is Whoosh? Oh, that's the album Whoosh.
See
Why did
how
they say including Whoosh?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's the latest one, isn't it? That's why.
I kind of
That's the
like the
latest one.
cover though. It's a super cool cover.
All right, this shouldn't be too hard. Okay, let's start
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah, I started. I started already.
All right, so we're all
The
here.
first
We're
thing
all
said of the
settled
recording
down.
was, "What the fuck is
Great.
whoosh?"
Oh, is that what that's what I started saying? Gosh. Well, anyway, this is pretty good because Purple is a band I've waited years to tier rank, basically. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite bands. The band you kind of learn to grow up and mature with.
My grandpa was a
I mean, I
huge
know I did.
fan.
Yeah,
He
it's a very mysterious band. I think back in the day they didn't have the best reputation, kind of scoundrelly, but
Whenever I
beyond
think of Deep Purple,
part of
whenever I listen to their music, it always reminds me of my grandpa. It's been
really.
almost 20 years since he passed. In 2007, he passed, and I miss him, man. But it always reminds me of him.
Or I think it's far and away one of the best rock bands that the world has ever produced.
Absolutely.
Um, And I used to consider them the top three. I used to say Sabbath, Zeppelin, Purple. And now I've grown up, I've wizened as I've aged, and I think I'd throw in The Who, Rolling Stones, I guess the Beatles if I had to, maybe some Floyd. Like there's a lot of bands I'd throw in, but Deep Purple was always one of those bands, like UFO, where it was like they were underrated, but at the same time they weren't. They were exactly as good as you thought they would be.
Yeah.
Um, and and I think without further ado, man, we can jump into Shades of Deep Purple, right? It's the first one.
Yep.
Um,
The Mark One lineup.
oh yeah,
Thankfully, I feel like Deep Purple with the whole lineup situation, it isn't quite as confusing as other bands because they literally call them like names. Like this is the Mark One lineup. With this is who is the lineup again? It's of course John Lord on keyboards, um Richie
Lord,
Blackmore on
okay,
guitars,
of
um
course. No other, no other than Richie Blackmore, the one and only,
Roger
the one and only Richie Blackmore.
Roger fucking hell, sorry. Um yeah, wait, okay, let me start from the top again. There was I feel like I'm missing
Yeah,
very important people. Oh
pause.
yeah, no,
By
of
the way,
course.
did you pause and
John?
check the audio for the UFO one to see if it's any good on both ends?
Yeah, I could do that in the middle of the recording.
Nice.
No,
Wait, did you
if it was fine,
pause?
I want. Yeah, we're recording.
I just want to check in case we have to make adjustments for this one
Oh
because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
if my
yeah. Okay, there it is. Yeah. Oh
hey,
shit.
um,
Oh yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's going through.
okay, cool. All right, so let's
Maybe
resume,
we
I
of
guess.
course there could be some sound mix stuff, but I mean, our voices sound fine, both of them,
Great.
equal levels.
Okay, let's equal levels. Let's resume. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Okay. So what were we doing? Oh yeah, there was John Lord, Richie
Are we
Blackmore.
resumed?
Yep.
Are we resumed?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so John Lord, Richie Blackmore. What is the name of the singer for the first three albums? Is like
Oh,
Tony something?
it's Rod Evans. Rod Evans.
Rod Evans. Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of a throwaway guy. You know, and what's weird is that the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, they did not invite Rod Evans.
yeah.
Or they did invite Rod Evans, but they didn't invite the original bass player. There was an original bass player in these early albums whose name I don't know, but he wasn't invited to the Hall of Fame induction as an inductee.
Oh, Nick
And
Simper.
even Dick Simper, right? And even Roger Glover was like complaining about it because it's like, like the fact that they have no respect for the band's lineup when it's such an amazing, thoroughbred band. Like it's just there's nothing quite like Deep Purple, and the fact that they couldn't even respect the original lineup shows you everything It is the travesty of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, does it not?
Don't even get me started on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm gonna go fucking rabid.
What'd you say? Nick, not about Nick Simper. What'd you
Nick
say?
Simper is the bassist, and Rod Evans is the vocalist.
And when did they? Okay, well, I guess we'll find out when those guys leave. But for now, we got Shades of Deep Purple, the first album, the '60s album. It's known for Hush, as I think a you know single.
Yep.
Um, and they have Mandrake Root, right? It's pretty good. Hey Joe's on here, which is originally written by Billy Roberts, not Jimi Hendrix. Actually, it's just Billy Roberts who wrote it. And that's a great little ditty. I think this album is cool. I don't necessarily, swear by it, but I think it's one of those curiosities in their filmography, or sorry, their discography, and it's a pretty psychedelic rock vibe. It's not as crazy and eccentric as early Pink Floyd, but it's still making a little bit of experiments, dabs of experimentation here and there. And I think overall it's a pretty listenable sort of pop jingly album. Hush is a very fun song to listen to at like a diner or someplace. So 1968, still pretty early, recorded in London off the Tetragrammaton label in the US, Parlophone UK. Derek Lawrence is producer. I don't know. I think I'd give it a B or an A, maybe an A. I guess we have A plus and A, so I'd give it an A.
I think this is a solid B. This one. I like Shades of Deep Purple. It's probably my favorite of the Mark One lineup. It's kind of breezy compared to the other two, which are more like dense progressive rock.
Right.
You know, like very dense feeling. Shades of Deep Purple
It's
though,
it's
it's just a
actually
nice listen.
breezy is exactly the word you should go for because it's like they don't have any heaviness really. It's a more a pop oriented album for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, not in a bad
They
way. You
haven't
know,
they don't really know what their sound is going to turn into, and I think they're still trying to be prim and proper
I don't
to
think
one
they know
extent or
either.
another. Yeah, I don't think they really know. And with the follow up album, the sophomore, the Book of Taliesin, they
Telly,
it's
Book of
still nice.
Taliesin, Tally sign.
It's a Welsh story. Well, I think it's a some mythical Welsh king like King Arthur or something. And this is also still in that progressive rock, psychedelic rock, hard rock, sort of trinity. Um, it's got some more classical insertions by John Lord on keys. I think they're trying to be like a Vanilla Fudge with this. I think they're trying to be a jam band that covers amazing work rather than writing amazing work. They're not really giving it their all. Um, you can see that they have sort of a scatter shot of themes. It's definitely in this Vanilla Fudge sort of half measure approach to songwriting. I'm not really convinced that this is mature. I think that the Book of Taliesin, for all its pretentiousness, the cover art, the title, the sort of the Renaissance, iconography, I think it's not the best album they'll do in their early career.
Here's what I
And I
feel
got to
like.
say, I think
I
it's
think
not an A, definitely not.
here's the thing. If Shades of Deep Purple is someone is a kid who wants to make movies, making home movies for fun to get better
Right,
at doing what he wants to do, then the Book of Tally
right.
Sign is a film student in freshman year of college who thinks The Matrix is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's incredibly pretentious
I'm saying that as a film
over.
student.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. It's overwrought and pretentious, but it has a tinge of dedication and sort of meaningfulness to it. I think it's River Deep Mountain High is the original French song, right? The Kentucky Woman. You can tell that the music that they're putting in here has thematically no relation to what the band is about. They literally are just hinting at ideas that they think have some sort of global appeal.
It
And
just
for that reason, I have to give it like a B. I don't think it may maybe even worse,
I
maybe
think
a
a
C.
C. I think a C for this one.
Okay.
It's not really terrible or anything. Honestly, I think kind of hard to find a really terrible Deep Purple album. But really think there is.
Not in this timeline, not in this early phase in the timeline. I think the Book of Taliesin is a sort of like a
Just
regression to
like
childhood
off.
in a way.
It's off
Yeah, it feels
in
childish.
a lot of ways.
A lot like Pink Floyd, to be honest with you, but it's maybe a little bit more contained.
Yeah. No, this next album though, self-titled.
It's actually it's Pink Floyd meets Jethro Tull, almost exactly.
Yeah, very. Yeah, Jethro Tull. That's what this album reminds me of a bit. Jethro Tull. Oh,
Now
that's
follow.
another
Okay, so get this.
random thing. I feel like
Yeah.
we mentioned this in. No, we have to redo our Black Sabbath episode, right? Um. Tony
Right.
Iommi was briefly in Jethro Tull.
What is he really doing? What I heard that as
Guitars.
a why?
He
Why?
I don't know. He got an offer, he accepted, and then he left because he wanted to do Sabbath. He wanted to keep going with his boys from Birmingham.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. Jethro Tull's a hell of a band. I just don't quite understand why Tony Iommi's doing in it. But you know, there's worse people to be guitarist than Jethro Tull.
I mean, they're Jethro Tull in
Martin Barre
1969.
is definitely not one of them. And is he actually in? Does he have any credits, or is he just a live performer?
I think he performed once live.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nothing.
Once. But I don't think there's
Yeah.
any like documented recording of it. I'm not really sure if there is.
So we should move on, I think, to Deep Purple 3, or otherwise known as the self-titled Deep Purple.
Yep.
1969, again on Tetragrammaton Records in the United States, and for some reason on Harvest Records in the UK. Derek Lawrence also produces Deep Purple, and again they use album art that is not their contribution. They use Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of the Earthly Delights, which is a painting I actually saw in Madrid, so I know it exists and I know who did it, and it's not Deep Purple. But that's the album card. Now for the musical style and all that, let's see. They have Lelena, Blind, The Painter. Okay, it's getting into like sort of English romanticism, William Morris's arts and crafts movement, then sort of like the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. It doesn't really have a stitched together theme. It's still airy fairy and pretentious, trying to be Shakespeare and stuff. What do you think of this? Do you think it's discordant? Is psych pop rock is like drivel, or do you think it has some sort of merit?
I think on one hand, this shows a lot of promise. I think it kind of shows off. I think this is um what was I gonna say? I think this is a very John Lord dominated album.
Right.
Very much like he has a very classical style. And I think like this is a much more um it's a much more like cerebral album than the last two. Um, there are I
That's
think
fair.
there's a song on here based off of Rosemary's Baby, I believe. Yeah, why didn't
Yeah,
Rosemary?
so
Why didn't Rosemary?
they're trying to be as pompous as it could be, and
Yeah.
they want to show off their smarts and their sort of like 20-year-old, erudition. Like, hey, look, I know what Alice in Wonderland is. I know what,
Yeah.
Charles Dickens wrote.
We sure know
You know,
what
I
they
know, I
are.
know, I know basic college educated factoids, like that kind of thing. And
Yeah. This is
they're
this is a film
they're
student
kind of
in his sophomore year.
yeah, right.
I mean,
And
yeah,
they
he's
literally say, apparently Richard Blackmore literally says in a book by Thompson, page 61, that it wasn't until Led Zeppelin came along that we had a direction. So they're using this Hammond organ and stuff, but it's all just pie in the sky, airy fairy, cerebral um, puddle play. It's not really meaningful music, and it's an exercise for John Lord's fingers, right? Trying to
yeah.
show you all his Bach technique, but it doesn't actually mean anything yet. Eventually, it will. And Lester Bangs says that Deep Purple doesn't mean anything. I disagree. I think it means something, but it just hasn't really shown through yet. Up next, the light
Where would
shines
you put
through
this
somewhat
one?
more. Oh, I would give this one a B.
I agree. Not as high. I don't think. I think Shades is probably still better, but
Yeah,
admirable, admirable.
I give it a B minus. I mean,
Definitely better than Tally Sign or Tallies and Tally that.
and I think Taliesin is the Book of Taliesin, right? I think it's a C plus. I don't think it's a low C, but it's still
Yeah, it's
not
not a
bad.
low C. It's a C plus, but that just feels like the awkward phase, and this one's sort of more like, yeah, they know what they're doing, but I don't think they're sure that that's what they want to do anymore.
Right, right. And I think this really shines through when you see the Concerto for Group and Orchestra from 1969, which is a live album with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra that was conducted by one Malcolm Arnold and recorded at Royal Albert Hall. Literally,
Four
they're
albums
big
in.
enough as a group. They're big enough as a group to get all this like booking, top booking, and yet they still do their like shitty you know, sort of stuff that like that no one that didn't really make them famous. For some reason, Child in Time is on this live recording, so I guess they would have done an early version for
Yeah.
and so maybe that's why it has merit.
Well, there actually are a few reasons for an early version of Child in Time. Um,
What are those?
no, I mean, there's a reason why there is an early version because this was released in 1969.
Yeah.
Um, and oh no, it was released in 69 to 70, but it was recorded in 1969. Um, and at this point, there's this little thing, right? At this point, Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, Ian Gillan is vocalist and Roger Glover on bass, had been recruited for Deep Purple, effectively beginning the Mark II lineup, probably the band's most well-known lineup. And the only problem
Yeah.
is that they had already started. They had those two members had already started contributing to new songs, while Rod Evans and Mick were still in the band. They didn't know that they were getting replaced yet. So they got
Oh,
They got Tony Martin by the rest of by the
weird.
rest of members of Deep Purple.
Yeah. So weird. They got Tony Martin. Wait, no, not Tony Martin.
No, they got Ian Gillan and Roger Glover while Rod Evans and Mick. I almost called him Mick Shrimpton from Spinal Tap.
We're still in the in the band. Yeah.
Yeah, while they're still
Makes sense.
there, and they didn't tell them
Yeah.
until they found out on their own.
That sounds like something Richie Blackmore would do.
That's the same
To
thing
be
that happened
fair.
to Tony Martin in Black Sabbath when Dio came in for Dehumanizer.
Oh, when
They
Dio
didn't tell
came
him.
back and they kicked out Martin,
Yeah,
or they kicked
no,
out Martin.
they didn't tell Martin until he tried to show up at the studio to record the next album.
Oh God.
A little quick detour that I'll get out of immediately.
Here,
They're
I think Dio
finally
was a class
reissuing.
act.
They're finally reissuing the Tony Martin albums from Black Sabbath on vinyl and CD and streaming. I'm ecstatic. Already pre-ordered the
That sounds
box
pretty
set.
cool. That's actually pretty cool. I'll have to listen to that before we redo the Black Sabbath tier list.
Yeah.
Anyway, up next is Deep Purple in Rock, which is actually a studio album, not a live one.
Whew.
And I got to say, this is probably one of the most famous album covers in hard rock history.
Yeah.
And this album is an essential um, tour de force for your collection. The people at home should know that this is one of the best albums ever made, and for not every imaginable reason, but for very specific reasons. And one of those is Child in Time. I think Child in Time probably is the most important epic ballad in the early 70s, the most important 10-minute length song in rock music in this era. I can't think of anything at 10-minute stretch that is as good and as compelling and as meaningful and as dramatic as Child in Time. So yeah, Speed King is also on here. It's a fun one.
Speed
Flight of
King's
the
off.
Rat is cool.
Flight of the Rat's my favorite, I think, on here. Actually, it was in
I
a
think
there was a movie that came out last year called The Creator. And it actually
yeah.
featured. I heard Flight of the Rat in the movie, and I was like, "Oh shit!" um, that's just a random thing I wanted to bring up. But I love Flight of the Rat. I really love this whole album. I'm gonna be honest with you.
This
Uh,
album is a great intro to Deep Purple. I think Child in Time is a song that really hooks you into Deep Purple more so
yeah,
than
Child
Smoke
in
on the
Time,
Water.
Speed King, The Hard Loving Man, Living Wreck, too. Um,
Here, you talk about those tracks. I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick.
oh yeah. Oh, there's also a single that was released around this time, like recorded during the sessions, called Black Knight, which is their highest charting single in the UK, and also freaking awesome. Um, I think probably one of the most covered Deep Purple songs too. I've heard a few covers of these. I think there's one by I think Forest Field with like Cozy Powell and Tony Martin. Um, there is I think it's a mainstay. It's been a mainstay since I think the reformation of Deep Purple in 1984 in the live performances. Um, yeah, like this is really where like Deep Purple, like this is where Purple really, really blew up.
This is when the light shone through, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it shines through here, and it doesn't really stop for quite some time. And I think that Rushmore cover is exemplary because of how great these musicians were in their contribution to rock. And it's sort of, an ego, it's sort of self-absorbed, but I think it applies. And it was number one in Australia, number one in Germany, number four in UK, number two in the UK singles chart.
yeah,
And in the US, it was not very high,
yeah. It actually
143.
did worse than the last few albums.
This is because there's a history with Deep Purple for being a European band, contrary to Led Zeppelin, which is considered more of like an American obsession. And so they would compete with Zeppelin on a number of their albums, for topping the charts. And Deep Purple consistently would sort of do better in the Europe, or at least they would focus more on Europe, the listeners. And in rock, is a I think their identity is kind of crystallized within rock. I think they're finally a band that's about sort of hard driven blues rock with a sort of like a veneer for the gothic. Whereas the other albums, they were all like artistic and academic in their attitude, and they didn't really have
Yeah,
a statement. This one has a lot more punch, a lot more of a statement. It's their most formulated album by far so far. Like it's they feel like a formulated band. And Speed King, I think, is a song that really typifies their foray into an amazing career. Apparently, Speed King was a riff for the bass written by Glover, trying to emulate Jimi Hendrix's Fire. And this is, of course, according to Robinson, 1995. And then Gillian, allegedly took lyrics from Little Richard. This is from an All Music article. I think Speed King is this sort of weirdly mature rock and roll 50s song. Like it is like a 50s song. It is like an old
yeah.
school rock song. But oddly enough, it resonates with the 70s audience and listenership. No matter what, if no, even if it's not in America, they'll be doing it in Australia and Europe for sure.
I wouldn't be
And in
surprised if
rock,
Motorhead took any inspiration from Speed King, or
they had to. They
yeah,
had to.
like Motorhead
I
is like
think
the
in rock,
premier rock and roll past the '50s band that I could think of.
because I mean, they're not. It's not rockabilly quite anymore. It's more like Link Ray mixed fused rockabilly.
Yeah,
It's got surf rock components for sure, but and swamp rock as well. But I think in rock, it typifies and establishes a thread in rock music that goes on for 20 years or so. and I believe Motorhead is, capitalizing on that totally, all the way balls to the wall. And in rock is it represents sort of like the gearhead musician rather than sort of the sentimental loner musician or the stoner musician. It kind of represents more of like a cogs and wheels type of player. And this is in this sort of white focused pop rock sort of scenario in England. And yeah, I would say that this is
This is
rock.
what?
Now, is it my favorite album by Deep Purple? Not really, but it is one of the ones I go back to the most. The one of the few that I always appreciate, even when I'm tired of listening to it.
Yeah,
It's just always there.
I love
It's
this
always
album.
there in rock.
And this is
Yeah.
actually Richie Blackmore's favorite Deep Purple album that he had involvement in.
And I love how they have five people on Mount Rushmore instead of the typical four.
Yeah. Who's gonna be the fifth president
Just
that gets
just
added to Mount
highlighting their
Rushmore?
highlighting their arrogance, how they had to improve Mount Rushmore. And then you said
Mm.
Richie Blackmore is in
This
this
Richie
it contribute.
Blackmore's. This is in rock is Richie Blackmore's favorite album that he was on for Deep Purple.
Oh yeah, his finest hour perhaps. I definitely, like you said, I kind of love this album. I don't know why
Yeah,
I love
I
it, but I
love it.
kind of do.
I agree. No, I really
Um,
agree with that. I freaking love this album.
so you want to give it an S?
I think it deserves it. Honestly, if
It's
this is kind
bombastic,
of
dude. It's
like
the Las Vegas of rock albums. It is the Las Vegas of rock albums. It is the Nevada desert. It is a bombastic tour de force. I got to give it an S.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
have to agree.
it's a hard hitting, fun album with some really killer piano and guitar solos. I mean,
Funny
it's
thing that
larger than
this
life.
Deep Purple in Rock came out the same year as Black Sabbath, the self-titled album. So I just think it's funny that
Oh,
two
really?
genre creating slash defining classics come out the same fucking year.
It had to. Yeah, I
What
mean
is
they're working in
1970?
tandem, aren't they?
And of course, these bands will
It
cross
was
over
it was a
constantly.
crucible. It was a crucible for metal. I think Vietnam War was a factor. I think the
Definitely.
liberation of India from the British Empire was a factor. I think um, the economy shifting from, um, the oil kind of being, being at the peak, at the lowest possible cost until the oil crisis. They were people in the West were spoiled for the affordability of gasoline. I think that's a huge factor in all this.
Yeah.
And the space age, it just got to the moon, 1970, I believe, beginning, and like all sorts of stuff was going on with NASA. So like, I think it's just there's a pinnacle. It's about 200 years since the establishment of the American nation. I think there's a lot going on in world history in the 70s. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 20 years' time we start looking at the year 1969 and 1970 as a fulcrum or an inflection point in world history. But who knows? I mean, for right now's purpose, all we have to do is just talk about Fireball, I guess.
Yeah.
What's
Fireball.
uh, as much as I love to stay on in rock, I Fireball has to be acknowledged. And I will say that as perfectly imperfect as In Rock was, because it's not a perfect album. It's sort of lopsided. I think Fireball is a more balanced album. If not as immediately powerful, it's still a more balanced album in the way that it was set up. Fools is one of my all-time favorite Deep Purple tracks. Fireball is a song like no other. The magic of Sorcerer is really shining through with Fireball. Um, this is also, the Mach 2 lineup at its best. They're still in their heyday. They're still, everything's kind of going smooth for the band. Strange Kind of Woman is on here. This is a really stacked album, and it's their first mature album, I think.
I do like this album a lot. I do think it is a bit more mature than In Rock. I feel like while I think personally I prefer In Rock mainly for its energy, I think Fireball is a
Yeah,
very solid album. Again, I'm gonna bring up the whole bomber sandwiched between Overkill and Ace of Spades problem, where I think Fireball is very strong. I just think In Rock and the next album are. I think In Rock is I prefer In Rock between the two, and then the next album I feel like would build on this, on what they were doing on Fireball just a little more. I think, even though this is still a great album, and I think the title track is probably top five Deep Purple songs for me. Um, yeah, I really like this album.
Yeah, I
Huh.
don't know what else to say. I mean, you have different releases depending on the country, which is problematic.
It
You
surprises
have
me
really
that
high charts, like
it
yeah.
surprises me that most of the band doesn't really care too much for this album, particularly Richie Blackmore. Though I believe
Well, you
Ian
know,
Gillan, this is
there
one of
aren't a
Ian
ton of
Gillan's
guitar
favorites.
solos. What?
I believe this is one of Ian Gillan's favorites. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, the singing is quite good,
yeah.
but
Oh yeah,
there's not a
Ian
lot of guitar
Gillan.
solos.
This is like where he's. This is around his peak, I think. Like this and the next two albums, I
Yeah,
think
I
are
think that
probably his peak.
Machine Head is more the Richie Blackmore album,
Yeah.
which is
I mean, he
following
came up
this
with
is
the
Machine
riff
Head. Is-
with one of the riffs that got banned from guitar stores, right?
exactly. Let's put Fireball with its hilarious album cover and its undying magic. Let's put
uh,
Fireball. I think it's telling they got 32 in the U.S. Billboard, whereas it's a lot higher than in Rock got. And German was number one, Italy was three, Norway two, Finland two, Danish one, Austria one, Belgium one,
holy
Canada
shit.
was 24.
No,
It
well,
got it got Strange Kind of Woman was number one in Denmark. Fireball is number three in Denmark.
it
There's a
seems
lot of
like
popularity
In Rock was their
in the
breakout
typical
in
metal
the UK.
consuming
This was
country.
their breakout everywhere else.
Yeah, this one really is, I think, the one that it was the first for the U.S. market to actually notice.
Yeah.
And
And the best part is that
it
Deep
also
Purple
just
never
has a
really
lot of
adapted.
solid songs.
Like Deep Purple never really felt the need to adapt to alternate markets. I feel like they just kind
Well,
of
I think
evolved
they
on
did
their
it
own.
with Fireball, but I don't know if they did it deliberately. Like
Yeah,
how
they
deliberately
don't have to do
their
it
decision was
deliberately.
made.
That's something I
Oh
could say
yeah,
about Deep
it just
Purple
sort of
compared to
happens
other bands
organically.
is they just go at their own pace. You know?
They're Ian pace. Yeah, they're even pace.
Damn it.
They're even Ian pace.
They're
Yes,
even
the
Ian
mule is on
Pace.
here. But what bothers me about this record is that the U.S. and Canada and Japanese release has the mule, which is a great. Oh wait, no, the original European one does too. My mistake. What am I thinking of? Oh, Strange Kind of Woman. That's what it was. Strange Kind of Woman is on the U.S. Canadian and Japanese release, but on the original European release, Strange Kind of Woman is only a single. It's not on the album.
Yeah.
So, um, it kind of annoys me. But um, I think they would have fared better if they had it on the European one. They already did top like multiple Scandinavian charts. So what am I? Who am I to complain?
Yeah.
Like, what do I really know about it?
What would you
Obviously, their producer is self-produced,
where would you
and they
put this
have
one?
the Harvest label. Where would I put it?
Yeah.
I would put Fireball at an A plus.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I agree. Definitely.
I think the machine up next with Machine Head from 1972. It was recorded in Montreux, Switzerland, late December '71. I think this one is better, and I think the songwriting is better. I think the guitar solos are better. I think the musicality, the effervescence is superior. I just think that Machine Head has to be an S album. It's got all these great, guitar store band songs like the riffs from Smoke on the Water to Highway Star, which is probably my favorite song by Deep Purple overall. Highway Star, and then Lazy's on here. Never Before. Um, Maybe I'm a Leo. Pictures of Home's not bad. Space Truckin' at the end.
Yeah, Space Shogun.
This has got to be an S tier album. S tier album without a shadow of doubt.
Yeah, no, I'm
And
yeah, no thought. No thought in the brain needed.
They
Yeah, this
even
album's
have a
awesome.
song where they talk about the Montreux Casino. Like they're literally writing about the fucking casino in the recording venue that they're at. You know, like they're not even writing about anything outside their immediate bubble. But this song still is kick ass. I think that tells you something about the strength of the band during this time. That they could literally write a song about anything, and it would. You know, they mentioned Frank Zappa concert going wrong, and that's like an instant overnight hit. So Deep Purple at full strength, 1971. I guess this is 1972 because it was late 71, but whatever. Um,
Deep Purple hits
Ian Pace
many
does really
peaks,
well.
and this is one of them.
I think Ian. I think Ian Pace. I mean, we talk a lot about John Lord, his killer, complex riffs that are like very virtuosic, and the virtuosity also Richie Blackmore. They play intricate solos. They
Yeah,
kind
they're
of know
very
their instruments.
classically
I
oriented.
think classically oriented, right? Perhaps operatic at times. But I think Ian Pace. I mean, the singing for Ian Gillian is operatic. But just like how UFO has two Pauls, Deep Purple has two Ians, and I think Ian Pace is always like underrated for some reason. Like he's always just
Yeah.
the one that people don't want to acknowledge, even though he really is like, the meat and potatoes to the
Yeah.
band.
Ian
He
Pace,
really keeps
especially
the
now,
pace.
is the meat and the potatoes of the band. Is this band's still together?
Yeah, I mean now you're right. Now he's a lot more important than he probably was in
Yeah,
context back
especially in
then.
the
But he
absence. Like
still is
at this
always
point, it's more like Lord and Blackmore that get more of the attention, and Gillen.
he's still quite an influential drummer. I don't know if I would say he's superior to Bill Ward or John Bonham or the classic ones that people mention. But I think
Yeah,
he's
Cozy
definitely
Powell's
like,
still my
not
favorite.
he's what?
Cozy
Closer to
Powell is
home.
probably my favorite drummer from
Cozy Powell is also up there. He might be better than Ian Pace in a lot of
yeah,
ways.
he's in Rainbow.
I think well he's definitely got a heavier, tom hit slaps than Ian Pace does. Ian Pace is more of um a hi hat. He's really quick and he really plays the cymbals very well.
Yeah,
And he
Cozy
and
Powell's more like
he's a
fast
speed.
bottom end.
Yeah, he's more better at the bottom end than Ian Pace is. Ian Pace is more of like a rhythmic jingle that just kind of cuts each and every note perfectly. He's a little bit more in the Ringo Starr domain in that sense. He's kind of a fusion of a heavy metal and a sort of a soft rock, pop oriented drummer like Ringo
Yeah,
Starr, Richard Starkey or whatever the fuck you want to call him. Anyway, no more Beatles references. I hate the Beatles, so none of
yeah,
that.
me too. I'm
Um, up,
not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of the Beatles.
I can't stand them. I can't stand them. But anyway, so we have Machine Head. By the way, hilarious name. I don't know exactly if they're talking about like an engine block, but they're leaning into the gearhead, reputation.
Yeah, they even
And
predicted a
it's
shitty
a
'90s metal band.
yeah, no, and they're yeah, exactly. They literally spawned a bunch of babies for themselves with that record. And Machine Head is this sort of awful band from the '90s.
But you
That
know
is
what? They probably took
somehow
their name
well
from a
known.
good album.
I mean,
No,
at least they knew who to copy. I mean, at least they copied the best, right? And
yeah,
then Main Japan is a live album. It's a double live album, which I forgot, and it's
we mentioned this in our
that's
UFO
kind
Part
of
One
the next.
recording,
Yeah, it's
right?
this is an early '70s live album before the UFOs, Strangers in the Night,
Yeah,
because that was in like '79. And Made in Japan is a very interesting Budokan sort of expose of Deep Purple's wondrous, long-winded solos and epic ballads and things, and the screeching vocals of Gillian and all that, the operatic bombast. Made in Japan provides that, but it does so in a package that's sort of exotic because you have this Japanese audience in the background, and it's all kind of fun. I think the Budokan is one of those places I have to go to before I die, like as a venue. If I don't go to the Budokan, I failed in my missions and stuff. So anytime I get a live album from the Budokan, I'm like Cheap Trick, that live at the Budokan, I like adore anything from the Budokan. I don't know why. I have no real reason to like the Budokan, but I do. Uriah Heep is also one has great live performance at the Budokan. Fortunately, that was video recorded as well. Um, the best ones are. But yeah, as for like what they're doing as a business, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to come out with a made in Japan live album because it shows you that they're playing into a different market, right? They're playing into the Japanese market. My suspicion is that they're trying to hit the Japanese market hard so that the US market opens its eyes for once. It can see that Deep Purple is a global sensation, a phenomenon, and then it decides to buy more of their albums. And I think they might have actually been successful at doing that. Problem is
Yeah.
that they wasted enough time with this live album that I don't think I think that the band lost its cohesion, it lost its camaraderie, and it became more of a business and less of a like an artistic sort of group and
No, I don't.
troupe, like like a music group.
I think they retained a lot
And
of
I
their
think
artistic merit for a while. I think they still kind of have some,
later on they'll do a live album called Made in. Yeah, you might be right about that. I
but
think
I
there is
think
some drop off, but it's not as much as
this is
I'm
definitely
making
where
it
the
seem.
tension begins. I think Made in Japan,
Attention, yeah.
and then the making of the next album, Who Do We Think We Are, is I think there is a lot of tension starting here, particularly with Ian Gillan and Richie Blackmore.
It's the la well the la Who do we think we are? 1973.
Yeah.
I'll get to it because the first thing I want to say is that they also did a Made in Europe in 1976, not just a Made in Japan. And by the time we get to Made in Europe, we can decide whether or not this period was like the beginning of the end for them, or whether or not there was a substantial drop off. But for now, we have to do Who Do We Think We Are in 1973. Um, um, yeah, so huge
Very
success.
bluesy.
This live album, the live album was Martin Birch, by the way, has produced the live album. Classic producer,
The,
R.I.P.
the
And Who
miss
Do
the
We Think We Are is released. Is I miss him too. I think we talked about how great he was in another podcast. Oh, I
yeah
think he did.
Maiden. I believe we brought
Was
him up
Iron Maiden?
in
Maiden,
Blue
yeah,
Oyster
yeah, the
Cult.
Maiden
Maiden
one.
and
Yeah,
Blue Oyster Cult.
right. He did all three: Deep Purple, Blue Oyster Cult, Iron Maiden.
Wow.
And so in 1973, we have Who Do We Think We Are, which to my knowledge is not their best album, strictly speaking. Woman from Tokyo is a great song. I love it to death. It's hilarious that it's a follow up to their Japanese album live in Japan, made in Japan, or whatever. It's hilarious. It's a follow up to that, but the album does not rest on its own laurels very well, very easily. I don't think it has enough going for it to be considered to be deemed a great album, and I think it is sad that it is the last Ian Gillan album and the end of the Mark II lineup. Um, do I think that it reflects the glory of Deep Purple? Yeah, I do. But do I think it is a compliment to everything they've done before? Not really. I think it's kind of a disappointing album as an experience. But that first track really does kind of, lead you astray and make you think that they're up to something great. I don't think the
Like,
album's great, but the first
truth be
track is.
truth be told, I think there are some really strong songs on here, but I'm
Okay.
not gonna call it. I'm not gonna lie and say it's as good as Machine Head or in Rock. I love Woman from Tokyo. I love Super Trooper. I really love Rat Bat Blue, an instant classic for the
Okay.
band. I think.
All
Um,
right. Yeah. No. I mean that's encouraging.
but I just think there's some
I mean
other songs on
I think
here. Our Lady, A Mary Long. Just, I don't really dig the rest of this album. Like it's either peaks stupid high, or it just kind of washes away. Another Crusader syndrome. I'm gonna coin that term, Crusader syndrome.
one thing that
Uh,
you have to notice though is that they got everywhere top 20 everywhere that is relevant. They got Japan was 15, US was 15, Canada was 11, Australia 5, Sweden was 4. Like just about everywhere. A few places were 1, Norway and Denmark. Germany was 3, 4. You see some 4s, a 5. They don't have like a ton of like ones. Like the UK was only at 4. But I think Who Do We Think We Are does represent sort of the popularity of Deep Purple as a global sensation, a phenomenon, right? But I don't think it's their best album. and I think it is kind of like a negative album in a way. It shows you that the glory is sort of over or past its prime, and there's a damaging tendency in this album. It's got some dark qualities to it. Um,
What
that
would you
they
put
got a lot of
this?
violent letters.
Yeah. Oh,
I would put it at I put it at a B.
I think an A. A, high B, A
Really?
minus. I still like it. Like for its faults, I think it's still a good album. Like I do appreciate this sort of bluesier
You
direction they're
want to do
going
B
in,
plus?
though. One,
You want to do B plus or A minus?
let's do B plus. I think I do appreciate this bluesier
Yeah.
direction they're going in, though, which is something. Oh, with this next album. Oh yes, that they build up on a lot. Hello.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You want to give it we gave In Rock an S, Machine
Yeah,
Head an
S,
S,
Machine Head S, Fireball an A plus.
and then it Fireball an A plus,
And then who
and
do
then
we
we
think
give
we
this
are?
what, a
A
fucking
B.
B plus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd be. I mean, it
Look,
remains to be seen. Maybe I'll warm up to it. It is not something that's ever really impressed me. But it could.
you know something
It
that has
easily
impressed
could.
me?
What?
The next album.
Really? Burn?
Yeah,
Oh
in
yeah, yeah.
Burn,
Burn's
full disclosure, my favorite Deep Purple album. Just straight up.
Yeah, I don't understand how David Coverdale got away with it, but he did. And
David Coverdale fucking destroyed this album. It was just funny because
yeah,
I'm not
he kind
usually
of.
the biggest fan of David Coverdale.
I don't know I don't know where he came from. What was he doing before he was
Nothing.
in
He
this?
this is his, he was an unknown. He was an unknown.
Really?
Yeah. This is also Glenn Hughes was on this album too. He because
That's
I
right.
think
They
oh
both were
yeah, I
singing.
should bring this up. Right. After Who Do We Think We Are? Ian Gillan, I believe, either left or was fired, one or the other. I still don't know. And Roger Glover, I believe, left as well.
Funny, David Coverdale is from Saltburn. Have you ever seen that movie, Saltburn? There's a movie
Wait,
that just came out
yeah,
about.
yeah. I have not seen Saltburn yet. I've been told I'll
It's
love
about
it.
yeah, it's a goofy movie, but like yeah, it's about like these like rich fucks in this town in Saltburn, and David Coverdale I guess is from there, and I think that's hilarious. And he was like, I guess he was 21 when he joined Deep Purple. Uh, and yeah, I mean, Glenn Hughes was from Trapeze, which I don't think is something we need to dig into right now.
Yeah, they're
But
more
he
like
did
they
have more
have a lot of
pedigree.
weird connections too. Peter Golby of Uriah Heep was their vocalist at one
Was it
point after Hughes
was in Trapeze?
in
Was in
Trapeze. Yeah,
Trapeze? Oh,
yeah, but I think they
okay, all
broke up
right,
before the turn of the '80s. So
right. Yeah, was her music good? Like,
I
I mean,
don't
what
know.
does they what okay.
I
Well,
don't have much knowledge besides the knowledge.
at any rate, I was listening to this Burn with the first David Coverdale album, the Mach 3 Burn, and it gets like a Chris Gow's record guide allegedly gives it a C plus. All Music gave it 5 stars. I don't really care what anyone thinks. I think with Mistreated and Burn and Sail Away and Lay It Down, Stay Down, You Fool No One. I think with all that shit on there, you gotta give this one an A. I mean, the
I
music,
fucking hell,
the,
this
the
album.
songs are not really my favorite Purple song, but the fucking quality is it's like the Whitesnake debut. It's just got a lot of energy, it's undeniably impressive and intense and fun. It's a really riotous album. It's a fucking violence in the street, pell mell, fists up, fun house album. I think we got
I
to give it an A at least.
I love every solitary second of this album. Um, I think "Burn"
Yeah,
might be my
like
favorite
second by
Deep Purple
second.
song.
So energetic. I would say even vivacious. I think it's just got a vibe.
Like I
A
said,
strong vibe.
"Burn,"
Your
"Mistreated" might
favorite
just
album?
take your
So you give
life.
it
This is my favorite
you
Deep
give it an
Purple
S?
album. I would give this an S.
Want to give it an S? Okay, I'll give it an S. I'll go there.
Truth be told, this might be the
Uh,
last Deep Purple album I give an S, but that's not. I'm not shitting on everything else.
Probably
I'm just
right.
saying this is like they. This is like the last one where I feel
Probably
like
right.
yes, this is Deep
Yeah,
Purple.
for some reason it's like it's a little like Fireball, but it's like somehow it's got more consistency.
Yeah,
And
and it's a bit
it's a
bluesier this
lot more
time
energetic.
too. Definitely owing to Hughes, I think. Like
It's
blues, like
just
Glenn Hughes is
it's
very
really just
bluesy musician.
the problem with
So
the problem with Fireball is that it was compact and
yeah,
it was cagey. But this one is like larger than life, and I think that's why it kind of ends up being better than Fireball. And ultimately, it got top 10 almost everywhere except Japan, where it got 11. And everywhere else, it got like 7, 5, 3, a bunch of ones, a 9 in the US. It's like
yeah,
the
a nine
highest
in the U.S.
charted.
is great for Deep Purple in the early 1970s.
Yeah, what year was this? 74, right? Yeah,
This was
February
74.
5th,
Yeah,
74. Yeah, this is a really impressive album. And for and the fact that they have two new singers plus losing their probably their best singer ever, Ian Gillian, it says something that this album is as good as it is. It
yeah.
tells you about the spirit of the band, and how profoundly magnificent the Deep Purple spirit really is. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think you got to listen to it. Mistreated, Burn, side one, side two are both good to go. You know, I mean, good to go stuff. I think the album cover is hilarious. It's got Fireball all written all over it, but it's a little bit more humble and it has a sense of humor. It's
It's
kind of a
very
mix of
Uriah Heep.
Fireball and
Very Uriah Heep. I don't
it's
want to
got this.
say very heavy again. I really.
It is Uriah Heep, but it's like a better than like this period. I think Stormbringer is more Uriah Heep.
It reminds me a little more of
I
like
think
Oh yeah, let's move on to Stormbringer. That
Burn.
actually reminds me.
Or okay, so you're saying that Burn is a Uriah Heep album. I
No,
think
I'm saying like the
It
cover. I'm
is
saying the cover album for
the
Burn
cover,
is very like
right?
Wonder
No,
World. The Wonder
yeah, like
World
Wonder Woman,
album.
right? It is a similar cover, but I think it sounds more
Oh, very
magnificent and
different.
more polished. Yeah, and more energetic, very charging. Whereas
Yeah.
whereas Stormbringer in was which is released the same year, but in November, Stormbringer does have a kind of a weird cover that I don't really care for. The
Yeah,
unicorn,
me
and it
neither.
doesn't really seem. It seems a little bit like one of those shitty Black Sabbath album covers that like what's the one Born to Die or something? What's that one?
Born
What's
Again?
the one? Born Again?
The one with the
No, not
fucking
Born Again.
devil
Not Born Again.
baby? Oh.
No, not Born
Taking
Again. Not Born
Ecstasy?
Again. I mean even shittier than that one. I mean the one where it's they got the gas masks.
Oh, Never Say Die.
You know,
I love that album,
Never
but
Say
good
Die.
God, what a cover. What the hell was that?
It's just starting. Yeah, it's starting to turn into just like like a melting pot of nonsense. And Stormbringer is sort of it's just kind of a bunch of shit smears made into artwork. But the album
Yeah.
itself is kind of cool.
The
The
album
problem
itself,
is the
I
album
think
itself.
it's real cool.
It's a real cool album. The problem I have with it is more critical, which is that it sounds a lot like Uriah Heep, and I don't really care for that sort of like copy paste stylistics. But it is listenable. Like it's definitely like at least a B.
I think this one's
Soldier of
on.
Fortune, The Gypsy, Stormbringer. Yeah, I mean you got good tracks.
We have
Can't
some
deny
good
it.
songs on here. Storm, of course, I think Stormbringer is like the one that most people talk about whenever this album is brought up, and I mean, no shit, it's a title track. But what else? I really like Holy Man, honestly. Soldier of Fortune, Love Don't Mean a Thing. There's some really, really, really good songs on here, but at the same time, I just don't think there are as many standouts as Burn, per se.
No,
and I do
not quite
think the
there.
vibe is very different. It's more of like a blues funk rock album, and there's a little bit more of like a like it feels a lot more. It's the most '70s feeling Deep Purple album on the whole. And while I
Oh,
do
get this.
personally really like it, I don't think I'd put it any higher than A.
Yeah, I think it might be a B to be honest with you, and I think maybe an A minus. I think it says something that both Miles Davis and Susie and the Banshees used this album photo for their album artwork. It's
Why?
like it's been a recycled. Well, it's just been a recycled photo of this fucking storm, dude. Of this tornado. They used
this
it. It's just I guess it looked cool, or I don't know. Maybe it was
this
famous.
tornado looks like a
No
shit
idea.
smear.
I know it's and
What
there's
is
this
so
weird unicorn
compelling
there
about
for like
this
almost everything.
tornado?
So apparently, there's a magical sword from this novel by Michael Moorcock
Oh,
called,
yeah. Oh, Michael Moorcock's back in the
and
conversation. Yes.
I
They
don't know anything about this, but all I can tell you is that Deep Blue Oyster Cult, another out band that we've much discussed, and also a band that has a color in its name. They wrote a
yeah.
song called Black Blade
Yeah,
that was actually about the sword.
that's my
Is
favorite
that the
Blue Oyster
sword
Cult song.
Stormbringer?
That's my favorite Blue
Oh,
Oyster
okay,
Cult song,
really?
Black Blade. Yeah,
It
Black
reminds me of the
Black
Jethro
Blade.
Tull one, Broadsword. You know that one, Broadsword by Jethro Tull?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bring me my broadsword, my heart of gold. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, we can do that
Oh,
later.
that. Let me
I think
button super fast again one more time. Blue Oyster
yeah.
Cult is releasing their last album this year.
Oh,
Ghost
that's
Stories.
such sad.
They're releasing
I
their
guys, I
last
want to
studio
see them
album
too.
and becoming live only.
Fair enough. They've earned it.
Yeah, they've earned it.
I, I,
Yeah.
I probably should have listened to Cultosaurus erectus more. I mean that like you're saying Black Blade. Like when we did the tier ranking for Blue Oyster Cult, and Saxon and Uriah Heep, those three in particular, I felt like I did not really have as much preparation as I needed. It got a little better after those, but those are the first three we did besides Black Sabbath, and I just didn't think I was hip to some of their more intriguing material.
Honestly,
Just
Cultosaurus
confessing,
is. That's fair. That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah,
Cultosaurus
well,
is my
anyway, we gotta
favorite
finish this one right here.
cult. Oh
The
yeah, yeah.
Elric of Millenbone, the Weird of the White Wolf. Dude, I gotta learn about this Stormbringer book. Anyway, so this album is not a tour de force, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Up next, we have a different guitarist. Richie Blackmore leaves, and
Yep.
then we
To
have one
form
with Tommy
Rainbow.
Bolin. Now, this one I think is a little better than Stormbringer. Come Taste the Band. I think it's better because Bolin is this hardcore heroin addict, and or I guess
The
and he
first thing you
dies
bring
pretty
up.
shortly after.
Uh, the first thing you bring up is
But
that
the
Tommy
bit
Bolin's a hardcore heroin addict. But yeah, no, it is true. It is true.
it is
And
true, and he dies, and then no one
it
really
might
saw it
just
coming.
take
I
his
guess that's
life.
what. Yeah, and he dies. Oh, they make this album, and I gotta say, really good rhythm guitar playing. The leads are not as tasty as I would like, but I think his guitar playing shines through pretty bright. And then, of course, it doesn't really amount to anything. Like the solos don't have a lot of meaning. They're kind of pomp and circumstance. They're sort of dark and riff roaring,
Yeah.
heavy, but they don't have a lot of penetration. They don't have a lot of piercing quality. They're not like it's not like like Dwayne Allman hitting those high notes on the slide guitar or anything. It's all very riff based, and it's still imaginative and kind of spectacular. But I just didn't think that this album had a lot of meaningful guitar work. It had a lot of pomp and circumstance, and sort of grittiness. Very enigmatic guitar playing, very unusual for Deep Purple, but the texture does not make the cake alone. There wasn't enough sugar in it for me. So I think that this album could have been like an S album, but Tommy Bolin was not like a well-rounded player, and his solos didn't really penetrate into my imagination that much. So I would say it has to be an A, but not an S. Maybe even a B,
I think
because
it's in the same tier
not a lot of
as
hits.
Stormbringer for me.
So a
honestly.
B.
I think like a high B,
Okay.
low A, something like that. I have it in A right now. Do you want me to move
I'm
down Stormbringer to B?
um. I mean, they're both, in their respective contexts. One with Stormbringer being a fantasy reference, and having lineup changes, and then also with Taste the Band having a major lineup change, the biggest one to date. I could see how you could argue that they are better than they seem,
I
better than
think
they appear, as it were. But
on
I
one hand,
think
I think this is a
in
more
in, in,
coherent
in
album than
crude, let me
Stormbringer.
finish. I think in crass reality, they're both B pluses at best. I don't think you can really call them A, but I would like to because I think that I have sensitivity to them. But I just don't think they're good. I think they're just they're above average.
I think, especially in comparison to Burn, though, to be fair, like Burn is just kind of fucking
Back
mind
end
blowing as opposed to
with the back. I
Stormbringer.
mean, yeah, taste the band like the guitar work is kind of mind blowing, but that's the only thing that
Yeah,
really mattered. And then the back end of Come Taste the Band has some really heavy, um, mind boggling jams, and you're like, wow, this is a wild ride. But it just doesn't mean anything. It's like the second to last track, it just kind
I
of goes
think the my
crazy,
problem with
and
Come
you're like,
Taste the
this.
Band is that it's a little. It doesn't really feel like Deep Purple anymore. That's my thing.
It feels
Like
like a
it's a
lot. It feels like
very
a Tommy
solid
Ballin.
album.
It feels like a Tommy Ballin album,
Yeah,
right? It feels like a
there's a
Tommy
little bit
Ballin
of
album
like,
and not one that you really asked for,
yeah, it's not one I
but a
was
good one.
expecting from Deep Purple. It's probably like the most different sounding of their non Rod Evans albums, I think.
And it was commercially, a pitfall. I just don't think it's an album that needs to be like championed too hard. The changing from Richie Blackmore to Tommy Ballin is a big difference, it's like changing from a hamburger to a steak, but the steak is like a cheap ass steak, and the hamburger had really high quality beef. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you'd think that it would be better, but it ends up just being kind of like a bait
Normal.
and switch.
It's like going
You know what I'm
from,
saying?
yeah. It's like it's like going from uh it's like going from Peter Luger's shittiest looking burger to
Yeah.
McDonald's best looking.
Right. Yeah. It's you're getting the worst of the best, and then the best of the worst in this funky sort of helter skelter combination.
Yeah.
And this end to end combination. I think Stormbringer and Come Taste the Band have to be in B because they have a lot of lopsided value, but it's just not. They're not really albums that I want to like, write home about. I think Come Taste the Band might be slightly better than Stormbringer just because they have an enigmatic guitar player and it's a whole different career direction. Whereas Stormbringer was kind of just a failure to be consistent. Um, Come Taste the Band at least is trying something different.
I think what will happen after this. After this,
So I
the
would give it Come Taste the Band a B.
yeah, I'm gonna
I give
move
Come
Stormbringer
Taste
and
the
Come
Band a
Taste
B
the Band down
plus.
to B. They're both better than Who Do We Think We Are.
Stormbringer's right. I think Stormbringer is who where do we put Who Do We Think We Are? We put it in C.
Also B. We put it above. We put it
I
in
think
like.
I think Who Do We Think We Are?
I'm still fine
I
with
think
that being a middle
Stormbringer
B.
should, I think Stormbringer should be in C.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that one. I think it's
I
like
think
the
Woman from I think
Stormbringer
Who Do
and
We
Who Do We Think are in like similar company to each other.
No, I know. I think Who Do We Think We Are should be in B. I think Stormbringer should be in C. I, we
I don't
put
know.
we put Shades of Purple in C. Did we? No.
Let me plug this computer in real fast. Should have checked on my battery.
Okay.
But yeah, after what happens after Come Taste the Band, right? Everyone's absolute favorite thing to happen to any band, they break up.
Right.
Deep Purple is gone for about almost 10 years. Uh, Meanwhile, Richie Blackmore is having success fucking around with Dio and uh, what's his name? Dio, Graham Bonnet, Cozy Powell, Joe Lynn Turner, eventually John Lord again.
Oh, what do you think Shades of Deep Purple is in C or because did we put it in C?
We put it. I think we put it in B. I think. Here's what I have so
Okay,
far. So
okay.
far, before
Yeah,
we get into the reformation of Deep Purple, I'm gonna run through everything real
right.
fast. In S, we have Deep Purple and Rock, Machine Head, and Burn. In A
Okay.
plus, we have Fireball. In A, we have nothing. Um, B, we have right now. I haven't touched it since I moved my laptop and plugged it in. We have Stormbreaker, Come Taste the Band. Who do we think we are? Shades and self-titled, and we have Talis, that one in C.
How about this? How about we put Book of Talazin in B, um, Deep Purple in C, Storm Come Taste the Band in A, Shades of Deep Purple in B, um, Stormbringer in C. Who do we think we are in B? And I think Come
Yeah,
Taste the Band could be the only one in, right?
yeah.
I think the Book of Talazin is better than the first Deep Purple, like the
No, I
one
don't
that's
know if I
called
could
just Deep
call
Purple.
Stormbringer better than worse than Book of Taliesin though. I don't know. They're both better than Deep Purple. I the self-titled one.
Yeah, the Book of okay, the Book of Talazin maybe is trash. Um, I, I mean, I'm partial to the album art. I guess that's all I
I
like
like the
about it.
art. I agree with you on that art. Very 60s.
Yeah, it's like a fucking Mickey Mouse cartoon gone wrong.
Yeah.
All right, all right, okay. Book of
Do you know
Talazin, let's
it's
put it in C. Let's put it. Let's put it. Um, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I Stormbringer. I guess we can put in B. Yeah, I'm fine with it in B. Which is where it was to begin with, right? And
I
then
think, yeah. We're up to Perfect Strangers.
Taste the Band's an A.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect Strangers, and that's yeah. Let's get to that one. 1984. Yeah, really took a while. I think Perfect Strangers is probably an A.
Yeah, I think an A
I
plus.
really like. Yeah, I think an A plus. I think it's better. Yeah, I think it's Perfect
If
Strangers, Knocking at Your
it's a
Back
bit more
Door.
radio friendly,
You know,
but I think if a little bit more radio friendly, but in a good way. Like if you're gonna do a radio
radio friendly.
friendly album, this is how you do it. Like your band's
Produced by
identity is
Roger
still
Glover.
intact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will never
Mach
forget. I think
2
the
lineup.
first time I heard "Knocking at Your Back Door." Oh,
Right.
one of my
Yeah,
favorite
I mean,
Blackmore
it's
riffs
hard to
too.
deny. It's hard to deny that for a reformed Mach 2 lineup years later, it is kind of like piece de la resistance. And they didn't sustain it very well, but I think they showed you that a comeback was in order and it could be pulled off and was. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not the best album in the world, but it's a solid album, and it represents sort of the glory of Deep Purple in all these intricate kind of ways. So yeah, I mean, I give it an A plus.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's funny because like I don't know how Deep Purple can pull off an album that goes It's insane that Deep Purple could pull off an album that goes this hard, this far in the middle of the '80s, where it's just like they should be out of their element ideally. This is like it's 1984. Um, their contemporaries have either gotten heavier or jumped into glam metal, or are about to jump into glam metal or new wave or something like that. Hell, even UFO, which of course
I
we'll get
think, but
into
I,
them when we do part two. But
man, I think even though they're not doing all these shitty glam and new wave ventures, I think that they're just gonna wind down anyway. And they don't make records that often anymore. 1987 is the next one. 4 years later, 3 years, I
yeah,
mean, sorry. And then they
some of
have
these albums are
Slaves and
really
Masters
good
in
coming
19.
up. I will say. Uh,
Um.
do you have any
Okay,
more to say
so
about
but
Perfect
let's look back
Strangers?
at the. Yeah, I'll say one thing before I do. The Book of Talazin and Deep Purple 3, I think, should be in C with Stormbringer.
With Stormbringer?
Wait, was
Mm,
Stormbringer the one that we? No, Stormbringer's in B. My bad. Everything's in B. Shades of Deep Purple's B. Stormbringer's B.
who do
I
we
think we
think?
are is B.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then those ones with the trippy artwork, those are in C, right?
Come
And
Taste the
then
Band is
Come
in
Taste the
A,
Band, A.
and then
And then Perfect Strangers and Fireball are an A plus.
yeah, and then the other three are in S. Burn, Machine Head, and
Exactly.
Rock.
All right, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I could argue that Fireball could be an S too, but I'd rather not do it right now. You want to put Fireball in S?
I don't know. I feel like there's
It might
something.
not really belong.
I feel like there's something.
Missing
Fireball
with
is
Fireball.
awesome, but there's something missing in it that In Rock, Machine Head, and Burn have.
Yeah, there's a comprehensiveness to those ones. Okay, so House of Blue Light, 1987. This got kind of weird, didn't it? I mean, we
Yeah,
had this
this was
amazing
weird.
Perfect Strangers come, where we have Gary Moore influences, Whitesnake influences. Um,
This
we
one's
have
really all over the place.
I mean, Martin Popoff was it talks about as a reference point. I'm talking about Perfect Strangers here. Perfect Strangers is topping the charts all around. I mean, it's a really great recovery for a band that a lot of people thought would never exist again. And and it has some really good music videos and stuff, and like the cassettes are now a thing, and all these different media formats you can buy it at the store in different formats. Availability is like never before. It's a very like heavily promoted, larger than life marketing campaign, and it's successful. But then a few years they don't do shit for 3 years until they do House of Blue Light, which also is produced by Roger Glover with the Polydor label. When did they start doing Polydor? Is that
Um,
because they were so produced. Perfect Strangers was
that
Polydor,
was
right?
Perfect
So they did
Strangers.
Polydor
Yeah.
Perfect. And now they're doing a follow up many years down the road, and they recorded in Frankfurt and Rome. Oh, wait. What am I saying? Which singer? Oh, Who Do We Think We Are was recorded in Rome and Frankfurt. My bad, which I didn't know. This one's recorded in Vermont, and some other place in the U.S. And the House of Blue Light, it's got some dumbass lyrics. It's got some dumbass songs. The Call of the Wild. I don't think that this is really anything to look twice at. But the charts sort of disagree. Germany is number one. Sweden is
This
number
was a
one. So is Finland.
this was a pretty big hit financially, which I'm gonna be honest, kind of confuses me a little because I feel like this is of the four like reunion era, like of the Mark II lineup albums, this is easily the worst one. And truth be
I think
told,
so.
maybe one of my least favorite.
I don't think it's got a lot of charm to it,
It doesn't have much charm.
and
It's
I don't think
messy.
it's a
It's
lot of
bloated.
vitality. Yeah.
It's just kind of all over, and I just it's like it's all over the place
You know
and
what it
yet
sounds?
safe.
You know what it sounds like, dude? You know, it's very fake. You know what it
It's
reminds me of? It
wrong.
reminds me of like a Melissa Etheridge, Bonnie Raitt album from like the early 2000s,
It
like
reminds me
2007 or
of
something.
Raging
And it's
Silence
like
by
it's a
Uriah Heep.
2007. It's like a 2007 like Uriah Heep album, but they're doing it in 1987. I just don't. I think it's got almost no charisma and no meaningfulness, and there's really not any attention to detail.
There's no
It's a
energy
lot
in
of
this one either.
filler
It's just
lines, a lot of
meandering.
filler. Art. It's easy. It's music that's pandering and easy to remember for the musicians. It's like it's not. They just want something to, you know, add to their repertoire in concert. But they probably maybe they don't. Maybe they want to add nothing. You know, it's like I think they're sapped. I think they're fucking sapped as a band, and they
Yeah.
hate the fact that they have to tour. And they're really letting us know with this dog shit album. That's kind of an insult. Uh, in fact, I should take it more personally than I am.
I
But the
mean,
good news is that in 1990 you get Slaves and Masters,
yeah.
which
Oh
is a
wait,
little
where are we
better.
putting House? Just to make sure.
I give it F
F.
or D, A
Uh,
or D.
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 Yeah, D. Let's do D.
I
Fucking
think
House
it's
of Blue Light.
insulting.
Uh,
I think it's an insulting. Like if it were some other band, it might not be a D because it's like, hey, I feel bad
because
that
it's
they
like the
made a
most
shitty
generic
album.
fucking thing.
But for a band like Deep Purple to make this, it's like really embarrassing to me as a listener. So I have to give it a D because it's
Yeah.
just not good. There's just no spirit to it. It's like insipid and it's full of filler bullshit.
Yeah.
Um,
And
they
I
they can't
believe
even
after
like
this
stitch
album came
together
out, Ian Gillan had left
melody
again.
after after House of Blue Light.
After House of Blue Light, Ian Gillan left again. Joe Lynn Turner
Yeah,
is
I
here
don't
now.
blame him.
Richie
And
Blackmore's
Jolene
old
Turner
friend
is
from
not.
Rainbow.
Oh, he was the second singer after Dio left,
Who's a third? Graham Bonnet
or
was
was he
on uh
Grant
the
Bonnet and Rainbow, and
was
then
on
Jolene
Down to
Turner?
Earth.
Okay.
And then after that one, Jolene Turner played from Difficult to Cure, Straight Between the Eyes, and Bent Out of Shape. I'm not a fan of Difficult to
Yeah.
Cure, but the other two, I think he did a really good job. Him and Blackmore seem to gel well together.
I know he is. I know he and Graham Bonnet have credibility, but I still think that going into Deep Purple is harebrained, and I think they do reasonably well considering what they were set up against. But it's not a good album. It's not as insulting and dog shit written as House of Blue Light.
I think Slaves and Masters, like I think it's a good album on its own. I think it's a good album. With
Yeah,
that being said,
it's
my
it's
main
not.
problem with Slaves and Masters
But
is not its songwriting, because I think most of the songs on the album I actually quite like. Besides, like, I don't like Breakfast in Bed. I think that's the one I'm not crazy about. I like all the others.
okay,
The
fair enough.
fuck is Breakfast in Bed? But besides
It's
that,
this one
I
has
think
has better rhythm than House of Blue
yeah,
Light by far.
Richie Blackmore particularly sounds energized, which I mean, no shit. He got reintroduced. He got reunited with Joe Lynn Turner from his own solo project. Um,
But he was
but
always the mastermind, wasn't
yeah,
he?
especially during this point now with Gillen gone. Um, I feel like the only thing that kind of keeps me from absolutely adoring this album though is that as a Deep Purple album is that it feels too much like a Rainbow album instead. Like it feels less
Yeah,
like
it
a
feels like a
follow up to Perfect Strangers and more like a follow up to Bent Out of Shape, Rainbow album.
yeah, it's definitely got a kind of pedestrian quality to it. Even though it's good, it's not good in the high flown manner that we're used to with Deep Purple. It feels a little more, workaday and kind of,
Kind of chill.
like kind of chill and starry eyed. It does. There's a lack of sort of like there's something naive about this album. There's
I
something sort
find
of
it
like
I find it
sophomoric
really
and
funny that
naive.
a year before this calmer, easier to listen to, a little bit more, just this calmer album, I find it funny that a year before
Was
this,
it Kansas?
Jolin Turner sang for
I can't.
Yngwie Malmsteen on on one of his most metallic albums,
That's hilarious.
and that's his best
The singing
performance.
is good.
Yngwie Malmsteen's Odyssey is fucking fantastic, but that's just another day.
His Odyssey, yeah, it's definitely there's a lot to unpack there. His fucking Odyssey for sure. That's the only word you could use. I wouldn't really call it a saga, more like a fucking comedy of errors Odyssey. But still
Odyssey,
a legendary musician.
yeah.
Um, this 1990 album, 13th by Deep Purple, Rainbow vocalist Joe Turner for the first time. I think it's got all these weird recording locations like New York, Connecticut, Florida.
Oh wow, the East
RCA is the
Coast.
label. Yeah, it's kind of like I think it has a lot of personality, but it's the personality is not the personality I want in a Deep Purple album. It feels a little like they're doing. Who did I just mention? Like they're doing like Kansas or something. Like they're playing. It's almost like a different band made this. Like you said, like it feels like Joe Lynn Turner's Rainbow. Like it just doesn't really feel like Deep Purple, and I think that's why we can't give it high praise.
I can't. I feel like that's on one hand, like I do really like the sound. Like I do. It's kind of. I get to just when I want to just cool. I just want to like cool down, just calm down. Like it's an album that I just really like to listen to. It's a good hard
It's a
rock
B.
album,
It's yeah.
but
It's a
in
B.
good
It's a
conscience, yeah, it's a B. In good consciousness, like in my heart, it's an A. But in good consciousness, as a Deep Purple album, I don't think it's any lower or higher than B.
right.
Like I
I
wish I
like I
could put
like
it
it as a
higher.
concept. I like it as a concept, and I don't mind it as an execution. But the fact is, Deep Purple kind of muddies the waters and makes me not really sure where its position lies. So I think B is the only thing I can give it.
Yeah. And
I'm not trying to, and it doesn't sound like an A album. It doesn't really sound like a C. So it has to be B. But it's just even weirder that it's a Deep Purple album. It just
yeah,
makes
it's
it
just
even
weird.
weirder,
I
and
really
it's
like it.
already
It's just weird that it's purple. Which is funny
right.
because I think that's the most purple on any of these covers besides Shades. It's like the only
It
album
does
with
have
that
purple.
actually has deep purple on its fucking cover.
But honestly, it reminds me too much of like Styx. That's what I was thinking of. It reminds me of like a Styx album.
Sticks.
It's a little yeah. It's like Crystal Ball. Really.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
funny you bring. Yeah,
There's
funny there's a crystal ball on this cover because there's actually again bringing up Ingve, a Jolin Turner Ingve song called "Crystal Ball" that actually kind of sounds like a
weird.
lot of the
Is it
material on
different
this
from the
album.
Styx one? It's not the same as the Styx one, right?
No, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's like gaze
Oh,
into my crystal ball.
yeah. I guess it was on people's minds. I don't know why they had three different groups doing that, but
I don't know. Jolene
I
Turner
guess it
just
happened.
really reminds people of a crystal ball.
I mean, it's not a bad icon. It's just such a random one to have at the same time. Anyway, let's do it. 1993. The battle rages on.
Yep. This one,
Um,
Jolene Turner was supposed to sing on it, but the I believe he was supposed to sing it. There were songs worked on this that some were included, some weren't. But the Deep Purple's managers wanted to get a 25th anniversary lineup going, so they brought back Ian Gillan to the dismay of Richie Blackmore. This would prove to be his final album with Rainbow.
yeah, and this one I love the cover. It's probably my
Yeah,
favorite Deep Purple cover.
I am a sucker for
But I
dragons,
can tell, um, I can
especially
tell
in this
you,
style.
I can tell you right now that it's a weird fucking album, and it does not sound like Mach 2 should. It does not sound like the Mach 2 at their best.
It's a little
I
heavier
would
for a
give
Deep
it.
Purple album.
It's heavier, and they don't know what they're doing with that heaviness. They're forcing the heaviness because for personnel reasons, I guess, or maybe because they're having a dick measuring competition with some other band. I don't really understand. They're trying to be more Deep Purple than ever before. I don't really get it, but I think it has to be like a C. This is just it's not quite figured out. mentally, there's some mental illness to this album that I can't put my finger on.
I skipped a detail before about this album that I forgot to mention. Joe Lynn Turner was fired during the early sessions of the band. These songs were written for a
Okay.
singer named Mike DeMeo, which eventually joined the band Riot instead.
Right. Right. So
And
that's what I mean by
they're one of
mentally
my
ill. Like,
favorite metal bands too. But
Riot
um
is good. No, Riot is good, and that's the New York band. But I'm
yeah.
saying that this is it's weird that they're Joe Satriani is literally doing like the tour. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Richie
like
Blackmore
in the
left
this album is
immediately.
this album is a hot stinking mess, dude. Like let's be honest.
I like this
And from
album,
Mach
but
2, the last,
I have to admit this is Vera Imaginos. Like
yeah,
this is Vera
yeah,
Imaginos. This is
precisely.
kind of messy.
Yeah, it's a hot stinking mess, and I mean, I would we call these other albums that we like, call them larger than life. But this album, you couldn't even venture to say that. It's more just like all over the place and scrambled. And
Richie
like it
Blackmore
does
calls
have
this
some really good
the cattle grazes on.
cattle grazing
Yeah,
song.
Richie Blackmore calls this album the cattle grazes on.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious, dude. Yeah, the cattle. Yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of snoozing.
Ian Gillan plays fucking congas on this album. What?
Oh my
Just
gosh, dude,
imagining
what is
Ian
shit?
playing. What's going on?
It's
No,
like
listen,
welcome to
like
their nightmare, you
I
know?
do. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like. I think this album is. I personally have fun with this album, but
It's
it's the
not
same
bad.
thing as Imaginos. It's not bad. It's just a mess.
It's a mess. It's a train wreck.
But it's
And
like a
yeah,
train
I
wreck
do
that's
love the
just kind
album
of
art.
beautiful looking for some reason.
The fact that it's a Mach 2 lineup in the last one, and in a really like feverish sort of angry period that they're in, it makes me sentimental. But I can't, I can only ride sentimentality too far, so
Yeah.
far. Like I can only ride it so far. Eventually, I'm just like, okay, I don't want to listen to shit anymore. I don't care if Joe Satriani, had to, be in the tour, or Mike DeMeo
Oh
from
my
Riot
god.
was the
Funny thing.
original singer. I don't
It's
care.
actually funny
I
that
just
you
want to
bring
listen to
up.
good music.
I brought up Imaginos before, and you brought
Yeah.
up Joe Citriani. Joe Citriani was also on Imaginos.
Yeah,
Guess
there
he's
you
just
go,
involved
man.
in a lot of
Exactly.
messes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. What do you
he's
think
doing the
about?
whole he's doing the whole Van Halen tour now. You know that, right? They're doing
What?
it with him instead of Eddie. They're doing a whole Van Halen tour with Joe Satriani because they
Why?
picked him for Van Halen. Yeah, I don't know because apparently he plays clean, and little did we know Eddie Van Halen always played clean, so that's basically the reason.
Oh.
Um, it's
Okay.
yeah,
We'll see how that goes.
he's a clean
Hopefully,
better.
it's not like what are the fuck Pantera's doing with Zach Wild?
Oh yeah, well I know that the Slayer drummer isn't he out? Like he's not even doing Slayer or anything. It's
Yeah.
all kind of
I mean,
it's
yeah.
a big fat mess, you know. It's all kind of like
What are
um,
reunion tours anymore?
it's a
I mean, obviously,
kaleidoscopic.
Pantera has an excuse. They have two dead band members. You know,
Yeah, I mean
Van Halen
at
has an
least they
excuse.
let their
Eddie's
guys.
dead.
At least they let Death do its part. These other bands, they actually have to like force it all the time. Anyway,
Yeah, Led
so up
Zeppelin
next,
again. Must I bring up Led
well they
Zeppelin?
were
John Bonham dies and
they were
fade.
never did, they're the only one though. Like what other band does that? They're the only one that did that.
Honestly, I
I
think
guess the Beatles.
if a member of Iron Maiden dies, they're probably not going to do anything again. Like seriously, that lineup
Yeah,
has
I mean
stuck
Iron
around
Maiden.
since like that lineup has stuck around since like 2000.
I'll give them credit. They none of them have died,
Yeah, none
and
of them have died.
you'd think they
I'm
would.
afraid about Nico and Bruce, but none of them have died.
Yeah, I mean now it's like so late in the game, it barely counts if one of them died.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that reminds
it's
me.
like
I might have
Charlie
to
Watts.
get Iron Maiden's coming to New York, Brooklyn. They're playing in Brooklyn. Uh,
Oh,
I gotta
John.
get tickets for them. I'm gonna get tickets for them. I heard
When is it?
they're playing Alexander the Great on this tour, and that's like one of my that's they're playing almost
Oh,
all of Somewhere in Time, and that's my favorite album, my favorite just
I,
album.
I
So
might go to that show. When is it? When is it? I might
shit,
have
I
to go.
forgot. Iron Maiden, it's
It's
the
not
Days of
soon
Future
though.
Past
Is
tour.
it soon?
It's after I get back.
Okay.
It's after I get back.
Okay.
Shit. Okay. Before we get into the next time, I need to find out again when this is. Future Past World
Wait,
Tour. Okay.
are you moving back to New York or are you
I am
staying
moving
in
back
Florida?
on. I'm should be back by May 3rd.
Okay. All right. So you have like a
Yeah,
month.
May 3rd.
Okay.
Oh no, it's in
Are you just
2024.
working
Oh shit, it's next year. Wait, is this year 2020? Oh no, it's
like
this year.
25?
Oops. This is 20. No, it's
This is
November
all right.
2nd
Anyway,
in Barclays Center.
oh, that's deep. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's
that's
gonna
deep.
be like six.
Fuck yeah, I'll get tickets for
Yeah,
that.
why not at Barclays? Yeah,
I want to hear him
I
say
literally the
Alexander the
graduation ceremony
Great.
for our college was there. I
Yeah,
mean, we may
so
as
you're
well in the
graduating.
Dodgers Stadium. At any rate, dude, let's do perpendicular.
Yeah.
What
Oh
what,
wait, where are
what
we
do we give
putting
the
Brett?
Battle Rages on?
Okay. In my heart, it's a high B. In good consciences, it is higher than Book of Tao's, and it's high C tier.
Yeah, let's give it C plus.
Yeah, it's
I
too
dig it.
fun.
All right,
It
moving
is
on.
too fun to hate. I
Per-
think
It's not D, but it's definitely not B.
definitely not
Okay,
D, but definitely not B.
okay,
Perpendicular. Steve
neither nor.
Morse is on
It's
guitar
neither
for
nor.
the.
Perpendicular? Oh
Yep.
yeah, this one's weird. This one's a weird
This
one.
is full on blues rock. Full on blues rock.
I remember it being kind of silly. It's on the sillier side. Obviously, it's the Scandinavians are still buying it, but the U.S. market doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, obviously they're like
The
balls deep
Aviator,
they're
the
like balls deep in self-hating rock.
Vavoom, Ted the Mechanic. Sometimes I feel like screaming. It's getting
Sometimes
kind
I
of
feel like streaming is fantastic.
it's getting kind of
It's my
limp
favorite
dick
song
at
on
this
this
point,
album.
right? It's like they're competing with like a declining grunge, genre subgenre, and they're this '90s Smashing Pumpkins, cavalcade is kind of like turning into a facade. The '90s are coming to a close, and then what happens? Deep Purple gets Steve Morse on guitar for some fucking reason that no one asked for, and
No,
now they're
Steve Morse is
doing
going to be on guitar from here all the way until
their
I think
15th
2 years ago he
their
left.
15th. Damn, really?
Yeah,
Their
I think
15th studio album. I mean, I knew he played for him. I didn't know realize he was that consistent.
yeah, I think he's their
Um,
longest serving guitarist, I believe.
that's probably true. Hey, man, hats off to Steve Morris, I guess. But like, this album is not the reason why I'd give him hats off. I think this album is probably a C.
This is a weird album. Like I appreciate it. I like blues rock a lot. With that being said, it's
They
not their
start doing
best.
puns, dude. They start doing puns with all their band names, like Perpendicular or the album names.
I mean,
Abandon
they're
is a
not new to
pun.
that. They are not new to that. Look at like on off Who Do We Think
I
We
guess
Are? The song is like Super Trooper. Super Trooper,
yeah.
but they spell
I
trooper like
mean, that
soup.
was a song though. That wasn't their album.
Yeah, that wasn't
You
a whole
know,
album.
I think,
Ted the
and I think,
Mechanic.
I think that's, I think that Perpendicular is a C, despite it having a slightly clever name. And Abandon is maybe even a more clever name, but I
I think
think
Abandon is
it's
just
seven.
straight up fucking confusing as an album.
Yeah, I mean, it's either what does it mean? A band on or a band done? It sounds like they're done.
Abandon. It
And
sounds
I
like
think
Abandon because I think it's kind of sleepy.
Jack Ruby, it's very sleepy. I mean, the fact that they have
Ian
a song called
Gillan
Jack
raps on
Ruby.
this album.
Yeah, the fact that they're rapping and one of the titles is 69 and another one is called Bloodsucker BLUD and another one's called Jack Ruby
I have
or I mean like what the fuck
absolutely.
is Jack Ruby? Also, fingers to the bone. I don't even know what that means. Sorry, slick,
Uh,
I might be Slick Rick, but I don't know what the fuck fingers to the bone means. It doesn't matter who if it's Deep Purple or
for
anyone.
some reason,
Fingers to the bone.
I feel like Ian Gillan is responsible for this for some reason. I
Seventh
don't know
Seventh
why.
Heaven? I also don't know what that means. What is Seventh Heaven? I mean, I know it means something, but like, could you at least like spell it out better, or have like
Can
an
you
awareness for
fucking
what people hold it?
can you
Like this,
spell
the
like you're
common
not
person does not know.
like can they
Any
spell
fool knows
like they're
that.
not. Oh, don't even
Oh,
get me
dude,
started on that. That's the song that
is
I
this
think that's
album
the song.
listenable? Please tell me
It,
you can at least listen to this band.
oh no,
From this
this
album.
album it's definitely better than Blue Light. It's better than House of Blue Light. A lot of things are better
Okay,
than
so it's
House
a
of Blue
C.
Light.
Give
It's
it a
like
C
a
and be done with
C,
it.
but I'm okay. I think I'm okay with putting it at the very bottom of C, truthfully, because I listen. I don't want to hear
It's
Ian
not.
Gillan rap. I don't. I don't want to hear him rap.
It's like a hellscape. Just like you're just immersed in this fucking oblivion. Ugh.
I don't want to hear him fucking rap.
Like at least the punk rock movement had some teeth to it.
Yeah, what's going on here? Huh?
I will say that the heaviness kicks it up a notch for me. I'll
Yeah,
settle
I
for
think from
C.
here
I
on
think.
out, the Deep Purple albums like they get a bit heavier, like a little bit. Oh, also, this is the last album of John Lord. I forgot to bring
When
that
does he
up.
come back? I mean,
He
I know he
doesn't.
died recently, but
He doesn't. Don
he
Airy
comes. You know,
takes
he
over.
came back. He never came back.
Yeah, he never came back. Don Airy takes over from here on out, and he's still part of the band. He actually worked with Rainbow
Weird.
at one point, and another. Oh, he worked with Judas Priest for a little bit. Anthem. Um,
You know what, man? I might give Abandon a B because I think the riff it's pretty riff foreign for me. Like it's
yeah, like it's a listenable album. I think like musicianship is
I mean, it
there.
sounds a little like something Guy Fieri might listen to. You know, it's got this sort of cheesiness, but like I think it's good. I'll give it a B.
I don't know if I
Abandon.
could give it a B,
I
but
mean,
you know what? I think maybe I'll move it up. I will move it up. So
C
higher than
or B.
perpendicular at least.
Okay, all right.
I mean, perpendicular is weird as shit too.
Is Perpendicular a C as well? I mean, these last two are both C's. Okay.
It gets better from here. Don't worry. Mostly.
All right. Speaking of which, we have Bananas, which I think is
Bananas.
good. I like Bananas.
I think Bananas is probably the best Deep Purple album of this new lineup. I think it's my
Right.
favorite Deep
And
Purple
without
album
John Lord.
since
Yeah.
'84, since Perfect Strangers. I'm not putting it in the same. I don't know if I'd put it in the same breath as Perfect Strangers, but I think it's like maybe I
It's
would. I don't
definitely
know. I
I
really
think
like
it's
it.
cool. I mean, I think it's got a lot of style. 2003 for
It's a bit
this
more
new
of a
millennium.
progressive rock
John
album, I'd say, but like a modern progressive rock
a lot
album.
it's a lot more yeah, it's like modern prog and it doesn't even have John Lord in it, which is kind of crazy. And
Yeah.
they still pull it off. I think I'd give it a B. Yeah, no,
Sun
easy.
Goes Down is one of my favorite Deep Purple songs of any lineup. You
I
know,
actually I like the sort of Matrix, you know, soundscape going on. It feels like you're in a science fiction sort of web, you know, listening to it.
the only problem I have
It
with
does
this
it's not it
album
feels
really is its cover.
yeah.
What the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah, I mean it's not the
I mean,
best
it's just
cover.
two guys just sitting around bananas. Not they're like kind of unaware that they're being pictured.
It's like sexualized, you know, it's supposed to be like it's like dumber than that. But I think for 2003, you know, I mean it's kind of an edgy album cover for like an aging rock band, you know.
Yeah.
It's got that sort of it's like got that sort of Satriani cornball riffing in it. Like it doesn't really have like a meaningful sound, but I do think there's at least some intricacy to like the compositions. And it's not like totally, you know, deadening to the ear. But like do I think it's like a worthwhile, you know, prog rock venture? No. But like I don't know, I guess if it's Deep Purple, it doesn't have to be that worthwhile to be meaningful.
Yeah. But you
Roger
know what?
band, to be honest with you.
It's funny because
Maybe we could.
I think it's an
Yeah.
A, at least an A, approaching A plus.
Okay. Okay, let's give it an A. Let's say near Come Taste the Band.
Yeah, I like this album like a lot.
Yeah, I think it's got enough personality for it to be higher than Slaves and Masters or whatever the fuck. Stormbringer, you know. So that's good. Um, higher than Stormbringer, I don't know. That's tough though.
I
Really?
think no,
Hold
I
on.
really do. I think so. I like this album a lot.
Higher than Shades of Deep Purple?
Yeah, higher than Who Do We Think? Higher than Slaves.
I don't know, man. I can't go that far. I think it might be B. I think it has. I think Abandon might be better than this album in some ways. There's a better sound.
I like this
And
though. I
Abandon
feel like
wasn't a good album.
I feel like I don't know about Abandon. Maybe I should go back to Abandon at some point. And you know what? You know what? Fuck it. I'll move Abandon up to B. I'll take your word for it. I'm gonna go back and re-listen to it after this.
Okay, yeah. Abandon's like a B. It's a
I
weird
still
B. It's
think
a B
Bananas is A
minus.
though. I'm gonna stand by Bananas at A.
A?
Yeah,
All right,
I
fine.
still,
Fine. Fine. A.
I feel
All right.
like I'm gonna
It's
stand by
it's
Bananas. Shit's
all
Bananas.
right. All
More
right.
than an all.
All right, I'm like fucking back to the wall at this point, but sure. Bananas A.
Rapture of the Deep is next, and Rapture of the Deep. How do you
Yeah,
feel
I don't
about
know.
this?
I don't think I listened to this one.
This is kind of
I
faceless to
didn't really
me.
listen to the last three.
It's a little
Yeah, I
bit
didn't. I
darker
had a
sounding.
picture of the deep, dude. Okay. The deep. I mean, I listened to Whoosh at least. I don't know.
I mean, like Rapture. I don't really have anything to say about this one. It just never left an impression on me, and no positive impression. No like extremely negative impression. Like it's just nothing.
Yeah,
I
it's
got nothing out of
it's like
Rapture of the Deep.
it's got Middle Eastern scales. It's not
Yeah,
really
it's
you know
vaguely Zeppelin
a
influenced.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, there's a good connection there. I think it is
Vaguely,
trying to be like a shitty, a vague shitty Zeppelin.
it just
It's
lacks
a little like
energy.
Greta Van Fleet. It's a Greta
Yeah,
Van
like
Fleet
Greta
baby
Van
or a
Fleet
precursor.
yeah,
It
but
sounds
it's
it
just
sounds like the warm up shit that Greta Van Fleet does. Um, okay, I think because of that though, I give it a B. I think it's funny. You know,
I think
funny
it's I
listen.
don't know. I think a high C for me. Somewhere in C, I think.
You know what?
Higher than
Maybe we should give it a D because they're just blatantly ripping off Zeppelin. It's like sort of
nah, a
stupid.
lot of bands rip off Zeppelin though. Like ripping off Zeppelin is like breathing air at this point.
Oh, dude, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty cringy. I'll give it a C at best. At
Yeah,
best, a
okay.
C. Okay, what's up next? I mean,
Now what
all
with
those like old man, like it's got these old man Robert Plant, aping. He's like aping Robert Plant, but like as an old version. It's kind of scary. Like I
what
wouldn't
if
want to be a musician doing that. Ian Gillian, I guess, can get away with it somewhat. It
next
really
one's called
sounds like he sounds like he has like a family, but he's like Robert Plant. It literally makes my skin crawl. Um, uh, it's like
and next we have
even Robert Plant would like age more gracefully than that. Um,
now
what's up
what?
next? Now what?
Question
See,
mark
I don't know, man.
exclamation mark.
You're asking me? You're
You're
asking me,
asking
dude.
now what? It's like when you wake up like you see oh new Deep Purple album. Oh great, now what? What the fuck are they doing now? That's what I want to
At
think
least
when I
they
think of
admit
Deep
it.
Purple. Anyway, I kind of like this
I
album.
mean, I think after copying Zeppelin for a whole album and embarrassing themselves, they as like in their 50s or whatever. Now they're like doing one where they don't even have a name.
This is probably I think this is a What?
It's a new low.
Don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I think they're trolling
But you
us.
know what? I think they're trolling us with the names and the covers. Because like I love it just ever since Steve Morse joined. You know, like every album has like a title that's like, you know, oh that's cool. You know, but then once Steve Morse joins, Perpendicular, Abandon, Bananas, Rapture of the Deep comes out of fucking nowhere as a title, and then we get Now What, Infinite, and Whoosh.
It
Like it
sounds a
just
little
becomes less
like it
intelligible as it goes on. It's fucking amazing.
sounds like a little bit like someone like there's something sort of gay about it. Like it's like too boring to be gay. Like I don't know. Like it just doesn't
What?
really sound like a thing. Yeah, it sounds like trans kind of, like it just doesn't sound like Rapture of the Deep. Now what? Like it sounds like something that like like the trans community would start telling you. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It's
What?
like totally random. Yeah, like they have no ideas anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like
I mean,
now what? Now what?
I think
Rapture
maybe
of the
they did.
Deep?
They probably did
Yeah.
lose all their ideas for titles. They should name their next
They don't
album.
they don't even need ideas. I mean, Iron Maiden has good titles still. Like, why are they calling it Now What?
They should name their
And
next
he
album
the way
Dip.
he sings like he has pancreatic cancer, man. Like he sings like he's on chemotherapy.
I mean, I don't know. I
It's so
think
gut wrenching.
I think Now What is better than Rapture. I think
Too much, dude. I don't know.
there are a few songs in here that I think
Rapture
are
of the
like
Deep.
legit good. I like Vincent Price and A Simple Song. Um,
Vincent Price.
yeah, the song Vincent
Okay,
Price.
I'll try.
I like them. I think it's a bit more of like a.
Vin-
It sounds more like Bananas than it does Rapture. I'd say. Or what was I gonna say? Aprevou.
Yeah,
I can't pronounce that. Body
I
line
think
is
it's.
all right.
I
What?
disagree, dude. I think this is a fucking D. I think it's a D album.
But like then there's shit like Weirdest Stan. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
it's creepily bad. Like it's not just
I
bad; it's like creepy how bad it.
I don't think I can call this as bad as House of Blue Light. I still don't think that. Actually, I think Rapture is worse. But
We want to put Rapture in D.
yeah, I think so. I don't care
And
how
put
many Zeppelin.
and,
I don't care how you imitate Zeppelin. Just make it good. Leave it a goddamn impression for once.
yeah,
You
it
know.
was weird that they did that. And then this album, I guess, is like you're like Vincent Price is a good song, and then the
I
other
like
ones are
Vincent
kind of
Price. I
like
like A Simple Song, and then everything else is just sort of.
it's not good. I mean, it's an adequate song,
It's
and then the other
better
ones are sort
than
of adequate.
Rapture.
I give it C. I think it's like for like what it is. It's like okay.
I like
I
parts of the
wouldn't like if I
song
heard
quite
it
a
on the
bit. It's
radio, I
just
would
not enough.
break down crying or something. Uh, I mean, it's just not. It's not the Deep Purple I grew up with,
It sure is Deep Purple, but
or
it's
anyone did.
just deep.
Is
We have
it?
Infinite, fucking Infinite.
Okay, well,
Another
this
album
one's
that left no impression on me.
yeah, I know. It's like uh,
Yeah, I don't
other
even have anything to say about Infinite.
than it's dog shit. Yeah,
I don't
well,
even think it's dog shit. I think it's just. I mean, Rapture's worse,
oh,
but like this is just totally forgettable. Like in
this one's a
one
lot of
ear,
like
out the other.
a lot of guitar bends. It's like where sustained bends.
Yeah,
That's kind of a good sign
it's
ordinarily.
kind of a good sign, but like at this point, like it almost sounds like Deep Purple is trying to be Uriah Heep.
No, yeah, it does sound a little
Because like
like
Uriah Heep, like modern Uriah Heep is
razzmatazz.
sounds more like Deep Purple than Deep Purple.
Like if Rapture of the Deep was Abracadabra, Infinite is Razzmatazz. I'll give it a B. I think it's got some good instrumentation.
I feel like there's some good stuff behind it. It just I don't really get anything from this one. I really don't.
I know, but Abandon, I think it's at the level of Abandon or maybe Stormbringer. What do we think we are? So
I think it's like at the very least below Battle Ridge is on. I think that's like Battle Ridge is on is like the worst Deep Purple
oh, you
album
think it's?
that I get that I get a mostly that I get a fun impression on.
I don't know, man. Do you think Abandon is really a B and Bananas is an A and then Infinite is not? Like I think Infinite is like a Abandon level. You
Okay,
know,
I'll move it
the
up to
sound
B.
they have a good sound,
Maybe I'll go back and try one
and
more
then
time. Maybe Infinite's a grower. Maybe it's a grower. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's a grower. Maybe it's a grower.
yeah, I think it's a lot better than the last one. You know, last couple. And then Whoosh is the latest.
Whoosh. I kind of like Whoosh.
Yeah. I mean, what was yeah, Rapture of the Deep was weird. Uh,
Now what is a little all over?
now, now what is kind of demented, and then Infinite is like starting to have some
Kind of.
quality movement, and
Whoosh, we're
then
finally
Whoosh.
back.
Let's maybe Whoosh is the best album that they've ever produced. You
Whoosh, I think they're not like
know, it's
we're.
like saving the best for last, right?
I mean, I mean, I think Whoosh is. I think Whoosh is the first. I almost call it Rainbow. First Deep Purple album since I think Bananas that I actually give a shit about, like at all.
Yeah, this one's kind of good actually. I would give this one maybe an
Yeah,
A.
it's good. Like
Maybe.
it's also not to mention probably my favorite Deep Purple album cover. I think.
It's a cool album cover.
Yeah. This is how you like listen, this reminds me a little bit of Never Say Die with like, the whole there is a pilot on the cover and the background is predominantly blue or white. Blue slash
I mean,
white.
it's pretentious. It's
But it's
pretentious as
cool.
dick, you know. I mean, it's like, but like they pull it off somehow. I mean, I'm sure in 10 years we'll look back on it and be like, was that really, the second to last Deep Purple album ever? It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
But right now, it seems to
I think
work.
they're gonna make another one. I have a feeling.
It fits the narrative to have it be whoosh, I guess. But eventually, we'll look back on it and be like, that's a weird album cover.
I feel like I'm oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Never mind, I didn't. Oh yeah, also this is the last I know they made a cover album Turning to Crime, which was I mean it was fine, but it's not on this tier list, so I'm not gonna count it. Um
I definitely like whoosh, and I definitely like I think all these albums, you can listen to them in like some sort of prison context and be fine. But like as a freewheeling man, I don't think I'm gonna like listen to all of them. But Whoosh is one I would listen to. So and so is Bananas, and I kind of have a soft spot for this shitty Zeppelin Rapture of the Deep attempt.
fucking Rapture.
You
I'm
know,
gonna move Rapture up to C. Back up to C.
no, it's definitely D, but it's like that weird type of D where you're gonna listen anyway.
Yeah, where
It's
it's
just
like it's
like,
kind of it's hard to look it's a train wreck, but it's hard to look away.
yeah, exactly. It's like you gotta look at it, get the binoculars out at some point. All right. Well, I mean,
Oh yeah,
how
okay.
are we for time?
I would do want to say one more thing before I tell you how we are for time. Um
Okay.
Simon McBride is the
Like,
new guitarist of Deep Purple. He is
that
of the
sounds like
band
someone.
Sweet Savage, a new wave of British heavy metal band from 1979.
Or
Deep
they're an
Purple is
Irish
working on.
heavy metal band.
Yep, from
Jeez.
yeah they're from the same period as say like Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, Saxon, Praying Mantis, Samson. Oh, Samson, that's another band I've been getting a little bit more into lately, but they don't have too much music.
Do you think Def Leppard goes with Thin Lizzy?
They were at the same time.
Like, am I?
No, no. They're two different.
I
They're
mean, I
more
know
like
these
AC/DC, I
are.
think.
You think AC/DC is more
I think
like Def Leppard
AC/DC is closer to Def Leppard than Thin Lizzy
than
is to Def
Lizzy?
Leppard.
Yeah, Thin Lizzy. I mean, I didn't realize they have so many '70s albums. Holy shit!
Yeah,
Early
they
'70s.
stopped. Ooh, wait, you know what? Actually, there's this
Yeah,
there's this 80s I don't want to call them a glam metal band because they're not, but they kind of get lumped in. There's this 80s hard rock
we could
band from
do
the late
UFO.
80s called Blue Murder
Oh, I know them, but
that
they only
has
have two
John
albums.
Sykes. Oh yeah, you're right. Shit. Tigers of Pantang? No, they're
What
too late.
we could do is since we did UFO, I think we could do, and we only did like to around '83 anyway. I think we could do Thin Lizzy because it's '71 to '83,
Yeah, well,
and
we could do.
it's almost the number of albums.
Yeah, I think UFO
I mean,
Part
it's like
2 and
11.
Thin Lizzy together. Thin Lizzy has, I believe, I want to say 11 or 12 albums. I want to say.
Yeah, it's got 11. It's got 11. I just counted. So it's got 11, and I'm totally down to do a Thin Lizzy. I don't a UFO Part 2 perhaps, but maybe we could table that and do a different band entirely. Um, what's one that really goes well with Thin Lizzy? Or sorry,
Trying to
not Thin
think.
Lizzy. So we did like what goes with maybe the Who? You want to do the Who?
The Who. If
Because
we're
that
gonna
would go with Deep Purple, I think.
The Who. Let's see. How many albums do they have? 12 studio albums.
The Who does.
The Who does.
Yeah, that'd be pretty easy, right? And
Yeah.
we could kind of say
Their
that that's
last one
like
came
Deep
out in
Purple, I guess.
2019. What the fuck?
Well, they had a hiatus from 1982 to 2006 after Keith Moon died or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, John Entwistle died
Yeah,
in
John
2002.
Entwistle.
I mean, who do you compare the Who to? Do you think it's like UFO, or do you think it's like Thin Lizzy, or I mean,
I
who do
think
you
they're
compare it
closer to
to?
like UFO.
Okay.
Who would I
Yeah,
compare
let's
Thin
do the Who
Lizzy
and
to?
Thin Lizzy. I'm down, dude. I think Thin Lizzy. Well, Thin Lizzy weirdly compares to UFO because they have the same sort of stretch and their quality years,
Yeah.
and
No,
then
I think
they're a little like
Lizzy. I think the difference between them is that I feel like UFO it drops off at the same point Thin Lizzy breaks up.
does it? Because Thin Lizzy's last album was in '82.
Yeah.
They didn't
Thunder and
last that
Lightning
long.
was like I think by the time we get no Mechanics actually. I like Mechanics.
No, I
I
think
think
I think UFO is a little more has a better arc than Thin Lizzy does, but I think Thin Lizzy is
Thin Lizzy
unusual because
the
they
Thin
both
Lizzy
have a
starts
singer
out.
named Phil. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing. And Lynott dies. Phil Lynott dies in
Yeah.
'86. So they're just done. Like they can't really do anything after that.
I find it
That's
particularly
like we're saying with
chilling that the last song on Thin Lizzy's last album, Thunder and Lightning, is called Heart Attack, and it's a lot of the lyrics like, "Oh, you got me overdose, overdose," and he says overdose a lot in that song. And what does Phil Lynott die from?
it's what they focus on is what they get in life, right?
He has there's like a thing where he
So
has like a one warning song every album. There's like a one like warning to himself song every album, and I think we should get into that in the Thin Lizzy video itself. Granted. Also, before we say anything, do we want to make any edits to this tier list? I'm gonna go from top to bottom.
but how are we doing for
Um,
time?
oh yeah, let's check that. Yeah, my bad, my bad. We are doing hour 58. We're clocking in. We're roughly matching Green Lantern, the movie in its runtime. Don't know why I
All right,
made
so
that.
let's look at. I don't know how you knew that.
I don't know how I
That's
knew
kind
that
of
either.
funny.
I just know
Uh,
movie lengths. Okay.
well, I will say that Deep Purple in Rock at S, Burn
hmm
by Deep Purple at S, Machine Head at S, A plus is Fireball. A plus is Perfect Strangers. A, we have Come Taste the Band with Tommy Bolin on guitar. We
Hmm.
have Bananas, which is the first to not include John Lord. And then
Yeah.
we have the latest album.
Whoosh.
At B, we have Shades of Deep Purple, which is their first one with Rod Evans
Yep.
and Nick Simmers. And then Simper, whatever. And
Yeah.
then Nick Simper. And we also have Who Do We Think We Are, which is unfortunately an earlier album. So is Stormbringer at B. And we also have Slave and Masters and Slaves, or Slaves and
Yeah.
Masters, with Jolyn Turner on the new Polydor label. And
Hmm.
then we have Abandon, which is a very strange one, but we decided was worthy of at least B
Ian
somehow,
Gillan rapping.
at most. I mean, it's not the best album, but it's not the worst. Kind of in the mid. And then also in the mid tier is Infinite by Deep Purple, which we thought was
I mean,
kind of an elegant album, despite not being very original.
not
And then
very
C,
impactful, just not, you know, not bad.
it
Just
sounds good. It sounds good, but it just doesn't mean anything. Um, um, which is what Lester Bangs said about Deep Purple overall. But I think it really just applies to the album Infinite. And then we have Tale of Taliesin, Deep Purple 3 in C. And then we also have The Battle Rages On, or as Richie Blackmore
I
uh,
so badly
claims,
want to
it's
put that in B, but I can't. I can't.
Cattle Grazes On.
The cat. I so badly want to
Um,
put the cattle grazes on in B, but I just can't.
Perpendicular is also in C. And
Yeah.
What Next? So
No.
C's got a lot of shit. I would put some of these in D if we're up to me. Um, House of the Blue Light is in D, which is we
Yeah.
consider that an insult to Deep
I
Purple. It was
think
so
that's definitely the
atrocious,
worst one. Definitely the worst Deep Purple
and,
album.
and definitely the worst by far. And then Rapture of the Deep is also almost as bad because Rapture of the Deep is not an insult just to Deep Purple, although it is. It's also an insult to Led Zeppelin. So you're insulting both Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. I mean, who does that?
So you want to know something? You want to know something fucking crazy? Somehow, in the
Yeah.
mid, if we're talking about mid 2000s albums by bands who were famous during either the 70s or the 80s, reforming and doing a Zeppelin type album, somehow Europe got it better. Europe.
Oh yeah, that's terrifying.
And like I'm not shitting on
Yeah.
Europe because like
One
they're
of,
good musicians. John Norum is a great guitarist, but
one of the most highfalutin, soy boy bands in the world, and yeah, and they have a better act than Deep Purple.
yeah,
Well,
I will say
how the
if you're
mighty
not a
fall, right?
if you never got a chance to get into Europe, which I mean it's fucking Europe. I'm not a big fan of
Can't
them,
blame you.
but yeah, fair. I'm not a big fan of them, but I will say John Norum's solo stuff is actually really good. The guitarist, it's kind of like a like this occasionally Thin Lizzy esque, kind of like occasionally Thin Lizzy esque. He even does a few Thin Lizzy covers on his albums. He's actually really good. I like John Norum a lot. It's just I don't
So
care about the rest of Europe.
from Europe.
The band.
Okay, well, speaking of Thin Lizzy, John Norum, and the Who, I think we're gonna do the rate their videos next. And I think it'll give us perspective on the UFO episode that we didn't finish. We're going to do a part two for UFO. I think we'll get a
Yeah.
lot of perspective for that second UFO chapter because Thin Lizzy and, as you say, The Who, they sound more like UFO than any other band I can think of. And two other bands. And then if you really want to, we can do a Rainbow episode because I know that it ties
Sure.
into Purple. And it will give us perspective on Purple, if
I'd
anything.
honestly love to do a Rainbow
So, yeah.
episode. I think it would provide a lot of perspective on why mainly Blackmore,
You know,
why
you
he
know, you know what we
left.
really should, you know, we know what we really should do is do Rainbow and Dio all at once.
Oh yes, I cannot wait. If we talk about Dio, I can't wait to talk about Dio. Ronnie James Dio is
But that's
my
after.
favorite.
That has to be after the Thin Lizzy and UFO and all, and of
Yeah,
course the Who.
we got to
So
take care of Thin
that's
Lizzy,
that's
UFO, and the
that's.
Who first. But then after those,
But I'll definitely
love to
listen to
do
them.
Rainbow and
Yeah,
Dio. That would total to
cool.
18
All right, man.
albums in their combination for
Yeah, I
Rainbow
think
and
that's
Dio.
well worth it. All right. well worth the listening. Anyway, Mike, it's Michael. Mike, it's
Yeah,
been
it's
good.
either one.
Always a pleasure. We can um we can sound off for now, and over 2 hours. I think we did an excellent episode. Unfortunately, the UFO episode we did before is only at 1 hour, but eventually we'll get that part two out. So
Yeah, we'll get that
good night
part
and good
two
luck,
out.
everyone. Thanks for
Yeah,
joining in. I think you'll find that we have a lot more of these videos in the works. So take care, everyone,
have fun.
and go Deep Purple. Deep Purple, purple,
Deep
purple, purple,
purple,
purple.
purple, purple, purple.
Always purple,
No, why?
purple, nurple.